Good morning to all of you. Am I audible? Okay. Vipin, am I audible? Akash? Okay. Audio, video, all clear? Right. So, in our last class, we started the very first chapter of modern Indian history, right? And we were discussing some concepts here. Okay, let's have a quick recap on what we were discussing. So basically, we were discussing the first chapter, that was India in 18th century. And there are three components in this chapter, right? One was the Europeans in India. The second was decline and disintegration of Mughal power and how a political vacuum was created. And the third section here is the rise of regional states, right? And we were discussing this very first part, right? Europeans in India. I have discussed some basic concepts with you, meaning of imperialism, colonialism, or what were the different circumstances in Europe, why the Europeans were attracted towards India. We have discussed all these concepts. In last class, we also discussed the basic idea about the Portuguese presence in India. That why Portuguese came to India, what was their basic intention, what was their policy. Okay, this all we have discussed. Why Portuguese failed in India, this also we have discussed. Now in this series, basically these are four main European groups in India: Portuguese, Dutch, English and French, PDEF, and this is in chronological order. So today we have to start with this topic, that is Dutch presence in India, right? So we are going to discuss this topic, Dutch presence in India. Dutch presence in India. Okay. So some basic questions, that from where Dutch came. So the answer is very clear. They came from Netherlands. Clear? So obviously the answer is very clear that the Dutch came from Netherlands. Netherlands. Okay. Netherlands. They came from Europe. Why they came from Europe? Because the conditions in Europe, right? The European countries were looking towards the markets that were outside Europe. Okay. Asia, Africa, all these, they were looking for the economic prospects. So the same happened. Okay. That a Dutch company was formed by the Dutch government, like English East India Company. A Dutch company was formed. So why this company was formed? So basically this is an attempt to promote organized trade. Okay. And that's why this Dutch company was formed. Okay. So this was an attempt of promoting the organized trade. So the Dutch company was formed. Okay. Now this Dutch company was given the right. Which kind of rights were given to this Dutch company? So the answer is very clear, that the Dutch company can do trade and commerce with the East. And here East means only India or Southeast Asia also. Southeast Asia also. These countries also. So this is the first privilege. So you can say that first right that was given to this Dutch company was to carry on, write this point, to carry on the trade with the East. To carry on the trade with the East. And you will make the running notes also in the classes, because I have integrated NCERT and all these things. So there will be no any need for reading books further. Okay. You will require to read only book of MCQs. So this is the very first point, that to carry on the trade with the East. And second, now just imagine that this is a trading company, and a trading company has been given the right that this company can do what? War with the local rulers. This company can also sign treaties with the local rulers by itself. So don't you think that the government is giving rights to these trading companies, and the government is also promoting these trading companies, that in future they can be political powers also. So the government is patronizing these things. The same Dutch ruled Indonesia. जैसे India was a colony of Britain na, so Indonesia was a colony of Dutch people. Clear? So this is happening. So this will not happen without the support of the government. So in every case, whether it is English East India Company or Dutch company, there was a clear relation between the companies and the metropole. You have to keep it in mind. So the company could enter, the company could enter war and peace with the local powers by its own. They could take decisions. They could take such important decisions. And apart from this, the company was also given the right to maintain troops, the right to maintain. Okay, now just imagine that the trading company has been given the right to maintain troops. What could be the objective behind this? Clear? So this is very clear. And the company, they were also given the right that they could develop their trading establishments or trading setups in पोर्ट के रूप में डेवलप कर सकते हैं. This right was also. So what does it indicates? Fortification of your trading settlements. You are maintaining troops, and the government has given you right to sign treaties with the local powers. You can fight war with the local powers by itself. Are you a trading company only? No. Are you having colonial objectives? Yes, you are also having the colonial objectives. So in this way, the Dutch company came to India. Charter was given to this Dutch company. Now when Dutch will come to India, what will happen? Portuguese are already there. Now these are two rivals, and there is a rivalry in trade and commerce. Got it? So this basically, is it only a commercial rivalry or it's a colonial rivalry too? It's a colonial rivalry also. It's not only a commercial rivalry, it's a colonial rivalry also. So write this. The Portuguese were already present. Now Dutch also came. Okay, Dutch also came, and when we analyze, we find that this is not only a commercial rivalry. This is not only a commercial rivalry, but this is also a colonial rivalry. This is also a colonial rivalry. They had colonial ambitions as well. They had colonial ambitions as well. It's like a colonial rivalry also. Now tell me one thing that tell me one thing that what they will do when Dutch will come to India. What will be their policy? Policy इनकी क्या होगी? If they have colonial ambitions also, what will be their policy? The policy to keep the Portuguese out, away from India. The policy to eliminate the Portuguese. This will be the policy. So now the Dutch policy was, write this, now the Dutch policy was keep the Portuguese away, keep the Portuguese away from the territories of India. To keep the Portuguese away from the territories of India. Okay, so they were following this policy. Okay, keep the Portuguese away from the territories of India. This is the initial stage. Okay, first Portuguese, Vasco da Gama, came in which year? 1498. Now the first Dutch traveler who came to India was in 1596. It's not 100 years. 100 minus 2 ऐसे याद कर लो. You can easily remember the facts. 1498 में 100 ऐड करेंगे कितना होगा? 1598. 100 minus 2, 1596. And first Dutch traveler was Cornelius de Houtman. Cornelius de Houtman. He was the first Dutch traveler. Cornelius de Houtman. Okay, Cornelius de Houtman was the first Dutch traveler. Okay, basically this year Dutch came to India, and 1602 Dutch established their settlements in India. Dutch established their settlements in India. Dutch established their settlements in India. They were interested in doing trade and commerce with India. Basically, which items will be traded here? They were interested in doing trade and commerce with India. What will be the items of trade and commerce? It's very clear. That will be indigo, that will be silk, that will be saltpeter, that's barud, right? Rice was there, saltpeter was there, rice was there, opium was there, and the most important, we all know, that will be cotton. Cotton bhi hoga, right? But the most important commodity towards which the Dutch were attracted was spices. Spices. Okay. सबसे ज़्यादा lucrative trade Dutch के लिए क्या था? Spices. Obviously, South India known for its spices, but Indonesia was known as Spice Island. Clear? So the most lucrative trade for the Dutch was spices. This was the most lucrative trade for the Dutch. Most lucrative trade for the Dutch. That's spices. Clear? And what we see is that, okay, Indonesia, Indonesia was also known as Spice Islands. Indonesia was also known as Spice Islands. Now, a very simple question. Most profitable trade or the item for the Dutch was spices, and Indonesia was known as Spice Island. So Dutch will be more interested where? In India or in Indonesia? In Indonesia. तो ये भी एक बड़ी बात है कि Portuguese were more interested where? In Brazil, and Dutch are more interested in Indonesia. Just from the very beginning. It means in India they are doing trade and commerce. We cannot deny that they don't have colonial ambitions. They too have colonial ambitions. इतने सीधे नहीं थे. But their main focus was trade on spices, and Indonesia was known as Spice Island. So you can write here that Dutch were more interested in Spice Island, that is Indonesia. So Dutch here were more interested. Dutch were more interested in Spice Islands, and this Spice Island is Indonesia. Clear? So gradually what will happen? Their trade and commerce with Indonesia will increase, and now they will be more attracted towards in India, and gradually they are not having much desire to establish a colonial empire in India. Technically they want to establish their control over the Spice Island, that is Indonesia. ठीक है, वो इंडोनेशिया पे अपना कंट्रोल एस्टैब्लिश करना चाहते हैं. बट देयर वाज अ कमर्शियल राइवलरी. आज की तरह WTO तो था नहीं, ठीक है, कि ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स को फेयर बनाने के लिए कोई इंटरनेशनल मैकेनिज्म. देयर वाज नथिंग लाइक दिस. सो व्हाट वी सी, स्टिल वी सी द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. हम क्या देखते हैं? कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. एंड व्हाट इज द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स? दिस इज वेरी क्लियर. नाउ देयर आर टू ग्रुप्स. वन ग्रुप इज Portuguese and Dutch. Portuguese and Dutch. And the second group, which is the third European group which came to India, that is English. 1599 English East India Company was formed. 1600 basically is the year when we say that the British presence was in India. So now the Portuguese were already present, Dutch were already present. Now there is a new claimant, and that is English. Now we are reading about this topic Dutch. Kind of conflicts is, one is Portuguese and Dutch, and the second is Dutch and English. Okay, but this conflict was not that much important. This conflict was not that much important. Why it's not that much important? Because Portuguese were already more interested in Brazil. We all know this. Portuguese were already more interested in Brazil. वो सबसे ज़्यादा interested कहाँ है? Brazil में. And the second important thing is that, okay, the relations between Portuguese and English improved. Okay, the relations between Portuguese and English improved. The matrimonial relations will be established, and the British prince, that is क्या नाम था? Charles II. Charles II was married to Portuguese princess क्या? Catherine. ठीक है ना? Catherine. So this matrimonial relation, and what will happen? Portuguese will gift areas around Bombay to Britishers. ठीक है? So Bombay, the British got in the form of dowry. They got it in the form of dowry. This all we know, that this all happened. It means now the Portuguese are not a powerful claimants in India. They were not the powerful claimants. They were not the powerful claimants because they are more interested in Brazil. Let's look at this map. Okay, we can understand it better. Okay, so this is Portuguese colonial presence all over the world. In this map you see the Portuguese colonial presence all over the world. ऐसा नहीं है कि केवल वो इंडिया में थे. This area is Brazil. Here we see the Portuguese presence. Clear? This is India. Here we see the Portuguese presence. Cochin, Calicut, Kannur, Goa, Mumbai and Diu. Portuguese presence in Africa also, right? So this is Portuguese colonial empire, right? In the age of exploration, they were trying to harness the markets of Asia. They were trying to harness the markets of Africa. But where their presence is the most dominant? This part. Look here. That's why I said that Portuguese were more interested where? So Portuguese were more interested in Brazil. Clear? This is Portugal. This is Spain. Okay. European trade was previously, सबसे पहले it was monopolized by Italians. Then it was monopolized by Spanish and Portuguese. And you will see there were different countries which monopolized trade and commerce, or the center of power also shifted in the favor of different countries. Just in world history, when Napoleon will come in France, what will happen? The balance of power will be changed. नेपोलियन विल बिकम मोर पावरफुल. तो ये बदलता रहता है. इटालियंस के बाद स्पेनिश, पोर्तुगीज और लास्टली हु विल बिकम मोर पावरफुल? ब्रिटिश विल बिकम मोर पावरफुल. पहले किसकी नेवी ज्यादा पावरफुल थी? पुर्तगाल, स्पेन और ब्रिटिश. पुर्तगाल एंड स्पेनिश नेवी, पुर्तगाल्स नेवी, इनकी नेवी ज्यादा पावरफुल थी बिकॉज दे वर हैविंग द बेनिफिट्स टू बी द अर्ली बर्ड्स in this age of exploration. Clear? This is one important point here. Now in the same way, if in context of India we see the presence of Dutch power, you will see the Dutch were present in different parts of India. अलग अलग जगहों पे इनके centers हैं. The most popular centers of Dutch power were Pulicat, Nagapattinam, right? Here you see Cochin, Quilon. These are the most important centers of Dutch. Okay, they were present here. Now we are reading the concepts here generally. Lastly, I will discuss some important facts. ऐसे तो इनके कई सारे important centers है, but in exam some selected facts are asked. ठीक है, जो सबसे important है. So we don't need to remember all the facts. When I will conclude the topic, I will discuss at least 10 to 15 facts जिसको आप याद कर लेना. That is frequently asked in all the examinations. सारे facts याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Now, one rivalry is not that much bitter. Is it clear? Which rivalry is more bitter? The rivalry between Dutch and English. Right? This was a more bitter rivalry. This was a more bitter rivalry. The rivalry between Dutch and English was a more bitter rivalry. Their relations were more hostile. Their relations were more hostile. And there is a very important event in history, and that event is in the year 1623. There is a very important event in history in 1623, and that is known as Amboyana Massacre. That event is known as Amboyana Massacre. That's a very important event in history. That is Amboyana Massacre. Why this is important? Because it marked the climax of hatred between these two powers, between Dutch and between English. And what happened here? There were some English people and there were some Japanese. Total number was 21, but there were 10 Englishmen, 9 Japanese, right? Plus 2 other people. So what happened is that these people were killed by the Dutch in Amboyana. Amboyana means Indonesia, और इंडोनेशिया में डच की प्रेजेंस ज़्यादा प्रोमिनेंट थी. नाउ दिस शोज व्हाट? अ काइंड ऑफ हैट्रेड बिटवीन डच एंड ब्रिटिश पीपल, एंड दिस विल फर्दर प्रोमोट द राइवलरी बिटवीन दीज टू. इनके बीच में रिलेशंस और भी ज़्यादा क्या हो जाएंगे? हॉस्टाइल हो जाएंगे. सो दिस अम्बोयाना मैसेकर is very important in history because here Dutch killed, okay, 10 Englishmen and 9 Japanese. So here Englishmen were killed, and the main reason was what? The main reason is the same, the commercial rivalry. They were fighting with each other, okay, in quest of increasing their profits, in quest of increasing their wealth. They were fighting with each other, and that's a reflection of that hatred in Amboyana massacre. The relations will become more bitter, and when the relations will become more bitter, what will happen? This hostility, the sense of enmity will be prolonged. लंबे समय तक ये conflict चलता रहेगा, right? But finally they will reach at a settlement. And what is the settlement? The settlement is that British will say that we will look after the colonial possessions of India, and you are free to look after the colonial possessions of Indonesia. We will not interfere in Indonesia, and you will not interfere in India, okay? And we will do trade and commerce. It is a symbol, it is a hint which shows that the colonial powers were dividing and distributing the territories among themselves with the mutual consent. And this is not the same will be expressed later also, okay? When you will read world history, I will discuss with you that in 1884-85 there is a Berlin conference. The European powers will sit with each other and they will divide and distribute the territories of Africa. आपस में बांट लेंगे कि भाई ये तेरा एरिया, ये मेरा एरिया. Okay, and you can imagine the insensitive attitude or approach of these European powers. They created the mistakes, and still the current generation, okay, are facing the consequences of those mistakes. Israel Philistine conflict, the root lies in the history, right? How a new nation was created. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? Okay, how sense of justice was compromised. So all the roots lies in the history. So the same is happening here. They are making a settlement कि चलो भाई तुम ये वाला एरिया देखो और ये हम एरिया देखते हैं. और gradually what you see that Indonesia will come under the control of Dutch and India will become a colony of British. So write this. Gradually we see that Indonesia will develop as a colony of Dutch. In world history, we will discuss this topic, Dutch presence in Indonesia. That is very important. And we will also try to understand in our world history classes that what was the nature of Dutch colonialism. Because in modern Indian history, what we will understand? The nature of British colonialism. कि British कैसे colonizers थे. World history में हम क्या समझेंगे? The nature of Dutch colonizers, colonialism. And then you will be able to compare कौन अच्छा था, कौन बुरा था, या सब एक जैसे थे. And the question will be based on that. UPSC वहाँ से question पूछती है. जहाँ पे कोचिंग क्लासेस पढ़ाना छोड़ देती है, वहाँ से UPSC क्वेश्चन लेती है. तो आप में से जो बच्चे सिंसियर होते हैं, सेल्फ स्टडी करते हैं, वो एग्जाम क्लियर कर लेते हैं. ठीक है. और जो लोग भक्त होते हैं वो भक्ति में अपना जीवन व्यतीत कर देते हैं. तो भक्त वक्त नहीं बनना है टीचर का. ठीक है. बी रेनेसा मैन. कल मैंने बताया था ना, रेनेसा मैन. ठीक है. चलिए. नाउ यस प्लीज प्लीज आस्क. ऐसा कोई पैरामीटर नहीं है बिकॉज द पावर बैलेंस ऑफ पावर चेंज्ड. ठीक है. देयर वर यूरोपियन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स ऑल्सो. ठीक है. तो ब्रिटिश कब पावरफुल है? ब्रिटिश वर बेसिकली traders, mainly traders. When I will teach you world history, so I will discuss a policy, that is policy of a splendid isolation followed by the Britain. तो उससे आप ज़्यादा बेटर समझ पाओगे. तो अभी इतनी ही चीज़ें समझते हैं. ठीक है. कुछ चीज़ें वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में आएंगी और फिर आप कनेक्ट कर पाओगे ज़्यादा बेटर. ठीक है ना? गॉट इट. नाउ have you understood this? Yes, please question, ask a question. Mm-hmm. Actually, for this we need to understand some topics in world history. That previously Spain and Portugal were together. Okay, एक union जैसा structure था, and you will find that later, okay, the Portugal will become free from the Spain. इससे अलग होगा, right? And if you need that episode, you can easily understand this concept. ठीक है ना? कि what were the reason why they became separated? Okay, अलग क्यों हुए? ठीक है. उसके बाद पुर्तगाल स्पेन के बीच में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, वो क्या है? तो दिस ऑल वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. तो उसकी जरूरत नहीं है. वी विल नॉट बी एबल टू यूज दैट. इतना आपको समझना है. गॉट इट? दैट व्हाट हैपेंड? ओके, राइट. नाउ this is Amboyana massacre. Now I will discuss with you one another important fact that is asked in exam, right? This is a very important fact. 1759, right? This 1759. Some facts are very important and highlight this. 1759. There is an important battle, and this battle is known as Battle of Bedara. Battle of Bedara. Bedara is in Bengal. Bedara is in Bengal. Okay, Battle of Bedara. Bedara is in Bengal. That topic is very important. Okay, here what happened? Write this. Dutch were defeated by the British. देखो, एक settlement तो पहले हो चुका है, but still, okay, Dutch tried to create some troubles for the British, and as a result, this war will take place. Battle of Bedara. Dutch were defeated, and this was a decisive war. By this war, what will happen? Dutch power in India will be ended. Read this. This was a decisive war, and by this war, Dutch power in India was ended. Dutch power in India was ended. Okay, got it? Write this cultural interaction point. Dutch presence in India. So obviously there will be some cultural interaction, right? Points of cultural interaction. Right, point one. Minting of coins. Minting of coins. Minting of coins. Many mints were established by the Dutch. Many mints were established by the Dutch. Minting of coins. Many mints were established by the Dutch. Right. At places like at places like Cochin, Masulipatanam. At places like Cochin, Masulipatanam, Nagapattinam, Cochin, Masulipatanam, Nagapattinam, Pondicherry and Pulicat. और ये सारे अभी मैप पे दिखलाया था ना, यही वो मेन सेंटर्स हैं. कोचीन, मसूलीपट्टनम, नागापट्टिनम, पौंडीचेरी एंड पुलिकट. राइट. ओके, दैट्स एन इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट. ओके, so Dutch topic will not be asked in exam. In mains this topic will not be asked. It is important for prelims only. Only some few facts are important. But Portuguese, why Portuguese failed, that is important. ठीक है ना? Now we are coming to the next topic. Next topic is English. But before English I will discuss French. फ्रेंच डिस्कस करने के बाद इंग्लिश पे चलेंगे, बिकॉज इंग्लिश तो पूरा हमें डिटेल में पढ़ना है ना, बिकॉज ब्रिटिश रूल इन इंडिया इंग्लिश ही तो है, राइट? सो वी विल डिस्कस फर्स्ट फ्रेंच, देन विल डिस्कस इंग्लिश. सो पोर्टुगीज, डच, English and French. So first we are going to discuss about French presence in India. Again some basic concepts. So the French company was founded in the year 1664. French company was founded in this year. That's 1664. Okay. Now French company will follow the same method as it was followed by the European company. English company. So French will come and they will set up their establishment at Chandranagar. This is in Calcutta, and they will also select another place, that is Pondicherry. So from here they will try to administer. Okay, administer in Indian Ocean. They will establish their control over some important islands like Mauritius and Reunion. Okay, Mauritius and Reunion Islands. They will also establish control over some important islands, Mauritius and Reunion. Now, when they come to India, when the French will come to India, British are already present, English are already present. Okay? Now, who are the main rivals here? English are already present, and English had eliminated Portuguese. English are also trying to eliminate Dutch. Clear? Or they had eliminated Dutch, or they are in the process of eliminating Dutch. Now another claimant of power come, that is French. Now these two, English and French, were the main rivals in India. They were the main colonial rivals. They were the main rivals. They were the main rivals in India. And the most importantly, they were not only the main rivals in India, but they were also main rivals in Europe. वो यूरोप में भी main rivals थे. They were not only main rivals in India, but they were also main rivals in Europe. Now here, what is the year? That is 1664. French company was established. Now before I discuss some important points with you, okay, let's understand some important issues here. French company was established in 1664. Now, French Revolution in which year? वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री की क्लास में देखा था 1789. ठीक है, इट मीन्स फ्रेंच प्रेजेंस इन इंडिया इज बिफोर द फ्रेंच रिवॉल्यूशन. ये फ्रेंच रिवॉल्यूशन के पहले है. एंड बिफोर द फ्रेंच रिवॉल्यूशन व्हाट वी सी, द सोसाइटी इन फ्रांस वाज बेस्ड ऑन द सिस्टम ऑफ प्रिविलेजेस. देयर वाज डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. Economy and that political system today we'll discuss in our class of world history. So the political system was also degenerated. The rulers were autocratic. Feudal elements were prevailing. The society was based on the system of privileges. Okay, priestly class was dominating. All administrative offices were held by whom? Okay, feudal lords, their sons and daughter. So in this situation, can you expect that the administration will be very much sensible? No. Okay, you cannot expect a better administration. And the political system, what we see, that there was an instability. Okay, instability of power. Okay, but this government was also bounded by the customs and the traditions. And overall, when you will compare France, when you will compare British, you will find that in comparison to British, the French were not that much forward looking. This is a relative concept. In comparison to British, the French were not that much forward looking. Okay, so what we see, that there is a clear cut difference between the status of Britain and the status of France. Okay, so this we need to understand. Okay, so you can also write that, read this, when French company was formed, okay, the political system, the economic political economic conditions in Europe were not very much stable. The political and economic conditions in Europe were not very much stable. Right? The government was bounded by the customs and the traditions, and was also not very much forward looking. The government was bounded by the customs and traditions, and it was also not very much forward looking. The government was bounded by the customs and traditions, and it was also not very much forward looking. It was also not very much forward looking, right? The society was also based on the system of privileges. The society was also based on the system of privileges. The society was also based on the system of privileges. Right. Feudal elements were dominating in administration. 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 Administration में कौन dominate कर रहा था? Feudal elements were dominating in administration. All this you understand? Right. In comparison to British, the French government was not that much forward looking. In comparison to British, the French government was not that much forward looking. In comparison to British, the French government was not that much forward looking. Now in that case, what will happen? The company can do or administer freely in India. They can take independent decisions, or the government will have interference in their decisions. Excessive interference of the government. ये कंपनी है, इसमें पैसा लगा हुआ है, किन लोगों का पैसा लगा हुआ है पता ही है आपको. So there will be excessive interference in the administration of the French company. So the company authorities are not that much free. They are not that much independent to take decisions like the EIC officials. EIC officials में थोड़ा ज़्यादा freedom था comparison to this. Okay, and this will hamper the administration, or you can say that activities of French in India. कहीं ना कहीं दूसरी चीज़ क्या है कि whenever the French company will need an economic support and help, okay, this is a greater possibility that if the French economy is facing challenges, they will not be able to provide you the fund, financial help and support. So will it affect your administration in India or not? Yes, this will affect your administration in India. So write this point, that French company faced excessive interference from the French authorities and the government. French company faced excessive interference. French company faced excessive interference. French company faced excessive interference from the French authorities and the government. From the French authorities and government. Okay, French authorities and government. and and they were not able to take independent decisions, and they were not able to take independent decisions. They were not able to take independent decisions. ठीक है ना? Right, next point. Whenever the French company needed economic help and support, whenever the French company needed economic help and support, whenever the French company needed economic help and support, the French government failed to provide that support. The French government failed to provide that support or help. The French government failed to provide that support and help. ठीक है ना? एक तो ये बात हो गई कि फ्रेंच गवर्नमेंट वो सपोर्ट और वो हेल्प प्रोवाइड नहीं करा पाई. Are you getting some points? Now write a few facts here. Right. अच्छा एक बात बताओ. What will be the center of activities, main center of activities for these European companies? North or south? South. What could be the possible reason for this? Yes. Second, देखो, the Mughal rule was in India when the European companies came. It's clear. When French came, there was Mughal rule 1664. पहली company French की establish होती है 1668 में. Okay. So who was ruling at that time? Obviously, Mughal rulers were ruling at that time. English company came, who were ruling at that time? Mughal ruler were ruling at that time. And what was the center of political control of these Mughal rulers? North or south? North. Okay. The second point. In South India, there were powerful states like Vijayanagar and Bahmani. Vijayanagar state was formed in which year? जो लोग AMC की क्लास में थे बताओ. Which year? Vijayanagar state came into existence in which year? 1336. बताया था ना, ये ईयर इंपॉर्टेंट है. Bahmani in which year? 1347. Some years are very important. ठीक है. And what is happening now? The disintegration of Vijayanagar state had started from 1565 onwards. 1565 कौन सी सेंचुरी है? 16th सेंचुरी. और यहाँ पे सडन डिक्लाइन नहीं है विजयनगर एम्पायर का. दिस इज व्हाट, फ्रॉम 1565 द प्रोसेस ऑफ डिसइंटीग्रेशन स्टार्ट्स. 1646 तक जाएगा ये डिक्लाइन का प्रोसेस. मेरी बात समझ गए? तो इफ अ पावरफुल स्टेट इन साउथ इंडिया विल डिसइंटीग्रेट, व्हाट विल हैपन? Numerous smaller independent states will come into existence. Clear? It means the center, a powerful center will decline, so numerous independent centers will come into existence. So 1565 onwards, there was a decline of Vijayanagar power. There were smaller states, numerous smaller states, and due to this, you can say that lack of a central authority in South India, now it was easy for these European companies to deal with the local powers, because there were smaller rulers and the kings. So French will follow the policy of supporting one against the another. पहली बार ये पॉलिसी कौन लेके आता है? फ्रेंच कंपनी लेके आती है. Their center of main activities was South India. एक तो South India coastal area. This is important for trade and commerce because naval route was the most popular route. And second, with decline of Vijayanagar Empire in 1565 starts, and that's why there is a political vacuum in South India. There were numerous smaller independent states, and now it is very easy for these foreign companies deal with these smaller states. Now it's very easy for the French. What? To gain support of one local ruler against the another. Suppose we all are the, suppose we are 100 smaller rulers in South India, and what we see, that French company will come, and French company has a well trained or well disciplined military, okay, that has got European training, formal training, military discipline. So their military troops were well skilled. Now suppose French company representative comes, and that representative, suppose Lakshya is a local ruler, and I am the representative of French company, and I am offering Lakshya that I will give you the support of my well-trained European skilled military army. And then Lakshya will ask why I should need the support. Then I will say that your neighboring rulers, neighboring countries, neighboring states like Akash is your neighboring ruler, Taran Preet, okay, Kavita, Vanshika, and or Rohit, all are what? Your neighboring states. And what we know, there was a lack of political unity between these small rulers. They keep on fighting with each other. So taking advantage of this situation, he will say that we will protect you from your neighboring states, from your enemies. So take help of our army. Okay. So they are doing what? They are using the policy of divide and rule, taking the support of one against the another. And this policy was first followed by French, and British were the good learners. British were the good learners. ठीक है, वो चुपचाप, दे वर द म्यूट ऑब्जॉर्बर्स, वो चुपचाप देखते थे, बेटा जहां से जो अच्छी चीज मिलेगी मैं सीख लूंगा. दे वर द म्यूट ऑब्जॉर्बर्स, गुड लर्नर्स. एंड ब्रिटिश लर्न दिस पॉलिसी फ्रॉम द फ्रेंच. सो राइट दिस पॉइंट दैट साउथ इंडिया, अभी देखो हम टेक्निकल इश्यूज पे नहीं आ रहे. व्हेन आई विल डिस्कस एंग्लो फ्रेंच वॉर, I will discuss the technical issues. ठीक है ना? Here we are only discussing the essence, right? This South India was the center of, or the main center of, all the French activities. South India was the main center of all the French activities. That was the main center of all the French activities. Main center of all the French activities, right? Main center of all the French activities. ठीक है ना? Now, right, 1668, right? 1664 क्या है? French company was formed, right? This French EIC was formed in 1664. French EIC was formed in the year 1664. And right, in 1668, first factory of French was set up at Surat. First factory of French was set up at Surat. Right, next point. In the year 1669, another factory was set up at Masulipatanam, Andhra Pradesh, right? So another factory was set up at Masulipatanam. 1669 another factory was set up at Masulipatanam. दूसरी factory कब है? 1669 में. And the next important year, right? 1674. What happens? This is one of the most important facts. 1674, right? Okay. Pondicherry was founded by Francois Martin. Pondicherry. The foundation of this Pondicherry was led by Francois Martin. Pondicherry is led by Francois Martin. The foundation of this Pondicherry was led by Francois Martin, and in this way the Pondicherry becomes the future capital of the French. And in this way Pondicherry became the future capital of the French. Pondicherry became the future capital of the French in India. Pondicherry. Is it clear? अच्छा देखो, British were present where? Bombay, Madras and Bengal. तो मद्रास को टक्कर कहाँ से दिया जाएगा? पौंडीचेरी से. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? So Pondicherry became their future capital, right? Next point. In 1690 and 1692, in these years, in 1690 and 1692, French also tried to establish their presence in the east, that is in the Bengal region. They also tried to establish their presence in the east or in the Bengal region. In east or in the Bengal region, जो मैंने आपको बताया था, चंद्रनगर, ठीक है, कलकत्ता, चंद्रनगर, कलकत्ता, चंद्रनगर, कलकत्ता. अब इससे एक बात आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि डोंट यू थिंक दैट द इंग्लिश विल लुक टुवर्ड्स फ्रेंच एज देयर मेन राइवल्स? ये पीछा ही नहीं छोड़ रहा है. ठीक है, मद्रास में तो पौंडीचेरी से पीछा कर रहे हैं, कलकत्ता में भी चले आए चंद्रनगर में, but it was not a serious threat, but still, okay, they were the most important. Means British wanted to establish a colonial empire and they thought that French will be one of the most important obstacles. अच्छा, French government की गलती क्या थी? Obviously there is a French company in India, so there will be the governors of these French company. So some governors were performing well, they had good achievements in India. One such name was Dupleix. आपने डुप्ले का नाम सुना भी होगा. That was a French governor. I will discuss it during the discussions of Anglo-French War. So one such governor was Dupleix. And what the French government did, they recalled Dupleix. They called Dupleix back. Dupleix को वापस बुला लिया. ठीक है, ये पहली मिस्टेक थी. और इंग्लिश कंपनी ने क्या किया? Clive, who was a clerk in English East India Company, was promoted to the governor. एक क्लर्क को प्रमोट करके गवर्नर बना दिया, और जहां जो आदमी सबसे अच्छा काम कर रहा था उसको आपने क्या किया? उसका पत्ता काट दिया. ये क्या है? If organization will not support the people who are having merit, what will happen? Okay, the symbols of decline or decay will be seen. British were very smart. They were recognizing talent. Clive, who was a clerk in company, was promoted to the governor on the basis of his skills and capabilities. And what about Dupleix, right? He was called back to France, and in France, okay, charges were made against him. Okay, उसको जेल में भी डाला गया डुप्ले को. ठीक है, and there is a historian, the name of that historian is James Mill, and James Mill writes that, ठीक है, James Mill ये साफ साफ कहते हैं कि Dupleix policies were copied by Clive. Dupleix policies were copied by English East India Company, and he says that had Dupleix been still the guide and conductor of enemies' affairs, it is more than probable that their most gloomy apprehensions would have been realized. मतलब फ्रेंच के राइवल्स कौन थे? इंग्लिश थे. और वो इंग्लिश किसकी पॉलिसीज पे काम कर रहे थे? डुप्ले की. किसकी पॉलिसीज को कॉपी कर रहे थे? डुप्ले की. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, देयर इज अ पॉलिसी सब्सिडियरी अलायंस that I will discuss later, okay, and that subsidiary alliance policy was the copy of Dupleix policy. So Dupleix was what? Dupleix was the that policy was the brainchild of Dupleix, and that subsidiary alliance policy was implemented, okay, in India by the British. तो ये बहुत एक कंपनी के लिए क्या है? This is not a good thing for a company, and these are the reasons that the company failed. ठीक है ना? So write this point that, okay, the French government also did not promote talent or meritocracy. The French government also did not promote talent or meritocracy. French government also did not promote talent or meritocracy. Talent and meritocracy, right? Example: French governor Dupleix was recalled by the French government. French governor Dupleix was recalled by the French government. French governor Dupleix was recalled by the French government. Okay, and this was one of the biggest mistake of the. This was one of the biggest mistake of the French government. ये फ्रेंच गवर्नमेंट की सबसे बड़ी मिस्टेक्स में से एक थी. Okay. Now, if I ask you that why French were not successful in India, now you have some points you can easily write. ठीक है ना? आप आसानी से लिख सकते हो. Basically, in this topic French, we need to understand one conflict, that is Anglo-French conflict in the form of Carnatic wars. So there are 3 Carnatic wars, okay, that were fought in 1740-48 and 17 दूसरा क्या है? 1749 to 54, and the third is 1756 to 1763. ठीक है? In some books this is also written as 1746 to 48. तो ये दोनों ही ईयर्स सही है, 46 to 48, गलत कुछ नहीं है. ठीक है? 1740-48, 1746-48, 1749 to 1754 and 1756 to 1763. तो इसको हम बाद में डिस्कस करेंगे, बट एक बात मैं आपको बताऊं यहाँ, वन थिंग दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. आई टोल्ड यू अर्लियर दैट ब्रिटिश एंड फ्रेंच, they were the main rivals, but they were not the rivals only in India, but they were rivals also in Europe. वो यूरोप में भी rivals थे. Clear? Now, the first Anglo-French war and the third Anglo-French war was what? The expression of the conflict, expression of the ongoing conflict in Europe. ठीक है, यूरोप में ये लड़ रहे थे और उसका रिफ्लेक्शन कहाँ देखने को मिला? इंडिया में. तो द फर्स्ट एंग्लो फ्रेंच वॉर and the third Anglo-French War was the reflection of ongoing conflicts in Europe. Okay, it was the reflection of ongoing conflicts in Europe. And the second Anglo-French War, this war, was mainly related to the Indian background. Second Anglo-French War was related to the Indian background. Indian background से ये second Anglo-French War जुड़ता है. Is it clear? This is related to the Indian background. This is related to Carnatic and Hyderabad. This is related to Carnatic and Hyderabad. And due to this, the importance of the issues, these all three wars are commonly known as Carnatic wars. Issues alag-alag the. So here we need to understand only one point, and that is English and French were not only the rivals in India, but they were also the rivals in Europe. And whenever the conflicts will be seen in Europe, the reflections of those conflicts will also be seen in India. उसका reflection India में भी होगा. जैसे ये है 7 years war in Europe, ठीक है ना? The second Anglo-French War was related to the Indian background. I will discuss it later. Anglo-French War बहुत डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे, बट पहले हम ब्रिटिश को भी समझ लें, इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी की पॉलिसीज को समझ लें, एंड देन वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट एंग्लो-फ्रेंच वॉर. तो इस टॉपिक को अभी मैं स्टॉप कर रहा हूँ. नाउ आर यू फैमिलियर विद द फ्रेंच कंपनी? बेसिक आइडिया ऑफ द फ्रेंच कंपनी. तो फ्रेंच कंपनी का क्या हो गया? ट्रेड. ओके, ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स. दे वर प्रोमोटिंग दिस ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स. एंड सेकेंड, दूसरा, were they having colonial ambitions? Yes, they were having colonial ambitions also, but the ambitions came in conflict with the British. British के साथ conflict था. Now the third power is, right, English East India Company. English East India Company, that is the third power, and that we need to understand. English East India Company, and the topic is very interesting here. English East India Company. Okay, now when English East India Company was formed, 1599, right? 1600 it got the charter. So some basic informations about English East India Company, right? English East India Company, some basic informations about English East India Company. So that is 1599. Company was set up. 1600 it got charter. And who gave this charter to English East India Company? Any one of you? Crown, yes. Queen, the name of the Queen Elizabeth, right? Gave the charter to English East India Company. Okay, so the charter का मतलब क्या होता है? Charter means royal order. Charter simply means what? Royal order. The order that has been issued by the king or the queen. In context of India, India के context में क्या कहा जाएगा? बताओ. In context of India, we will call it फरमान, because there was Mughal ruler. तो मुगल रूलर अगर कोई ऑर्डर इशू करेगा, दैट विल बी फरमान. और क्वीन एलिजाबेथ इशू करेगी तो क्या हो गया? चार्टर. और हम लोग ऑर्डर इशू करें तो वो ऑर्डर ही रह जाएगा बेचारा, ना वो फरमान बनेगा ना वो चार्टर बनेगा. तो दैट वाज अ चार्टर. एंड इन दैट चार्टर व्हाट वाज गिवन? पहली चीज क्या है कि दिस कंपनी EIC was a JVC, joint venture company, and this was a joint venture company in true sense. I am using a word here, in true sense. In true sense, it was a joint venture company. Is it clear? In true sense, it was a joint venture company. पहले वाली भी कंपनी ही थी, right? French company, Dutch company, Portuguese company, but in true sense, in technical sense, this is a joint venture company. Company of shareholders, right? This was a company of shareholders. And when this company was formed, which century is this? Okay, so this is the end of 16th century and beginning of 17th century. End of 16th century and beginning of 17th century. And at this time period, the most popular economic theory which Britain was promoting was what? The idea of merchant capitalism or mercantilism. When you combine both these words, this will become what? दोनों को जोड़ दो, यही क्या हो जाएगा? Mercantilism. Mercantilism is the idea which was popular in 17th 18th century. इंडस्ट्रियल रिवोल्यूशन के आने के बाद इस इकोनॉमिक थियरी में क्या हो जाएगा, बदलाव हो जाएगा। इंडस्ट्रियल रिवोल्यूशन कब आता है, 18th सेंचुरी, 1760, ठीक है। सो दैट इज, दिस इज जनरल टाइमलाइन कि 17th 18th सेंचुरी में मर्चेंट कैपिटलिज्म एज एन आइडिया इज पॉपुलर। ऐसा नहीं है 16th सेंचुरी भी लिख सकते हो, दैट इज द सेकंड हाफ ऑफ 16th सेंचुरी, ठीक है। मेनली 16 17 सम बुक विल राइट 17 13, तो गलत नहीं है कुछ, ठीक है ना। तो दिस वाज एन इकोनॉमिक थियरी ऑफ द स्टेट, एंड व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ दिस इकोनॉमिक थियरी, बहुत आसान है। दिस इज व्हाट, मर्चेंट प्लस कैपिटलिज्म। When the state starts behaving like a merchant, the state itself starts behaving like a merchant. And what is the capitalism? Capitalism idea का essence क्या है, profit making, यही तो है capitalism में, profit making, okay। सोशलिज्म आएगा तो क्या करेगा, प्रॉफिट मेकिंग की जगह सोशल वेलफेयर, ये मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव हो जाएगा, राइट। सो प्रॉफिट मेकिंग, प्रॉफिट मेकिंग, प्रॉफिट मेकिंग, it means when the state behaves like a merchant and focus on profit making, increasing its profit, okay, by which means, fair or unfair means, the state will not care for the means that this is fair or unfair. The state will only focus on what, the state will only focus on increasing its profit, profit making, ठीक है। दैट इज मर्चेंट कैपिटलिज्म। कैसे कर सकता है, बाय पुटिंग सेवरल रिस्ट्रिक्शंस, और दूसरा बाय अनफेयर ट्रेड प्रैक्टिसेस, बाय यूजिंग अनफेयर टैरिफ पॉलिसी, एंड बाय प्रमोटिंग द आइडिया ऑफ colonialism. In colonialism, what will happen, okay, the colony, okay, the economic, political, administrative, social, cultural developments in the colony, all these developments are ensured in such a manner that it will provide benefits not to the colony but it will provide benefits to the mother country, that is Britain. मेरी बात समझ गया ना, पेड़ में पानी मैं दे रहा हूँ, फल मैं लगा रहा हूँ, और जब आम पकेगा तो तोड़ के आप अपने घर लेके चले जाओगे, यही क्या है, कॉलोनियलिज्म, ठीक है। मेरी बात समझ गए, तो कॉलोनियलिज्म ये है। So this is what merchant capitalism, this is the era, and the state is focusing on more and more profit making. State profit making को कैसे increase करेगा, so we all know by increasing its export and by reducing the imports. This was the idea कि export को बढ़ाते हैं और import को कम करते हैं। इंपोर्ट को कम करने के लिए जो भी तरीके लगा सकते हो लगाओ, एक्सपोर्ट को बढ़ाने के लिए जो तरीके यूज कर सकते हो, ठीक है। इससे क्या होगा, सप्लाई ऑफ बुलियंस विल बी इंक्रीज्ड, दिस विल इंक्रीज द सप्लाई ऑफ बुलियन, सप्लाई ऑफ बुलियन इससे बढ़ जाएगा, एंड बुलियन हियर मींस व्हाट, प्रीशियस मेटल like gold. When you will increase export, you will get more precious metal, so the supply of bullions will be increased. ये फोकस है गवर्नमेंट का, एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ाना। तो if the company will come, the trade will be more organized, okay, and what will happen, if the company will present in Indian market, that was a lucrative market at that time, now the Britain can sell its goods more easily, clear. So their focus will be what, to buy the raw materials at the cheaper prices and to sell their goods at the dearer prices in Indian market, and in this way they wanted to utilize the Indian market for their own benefits, and for that purpose the government gave what, monopolistic rights to English East India Company. Here which kind of rights have been given, read this point, monopolistic rights were given, monopolistic rights were given to English East India Company. Monopolistic rights, mono means one, when the right to do trade and commerce with the East will be given to only one entity, that is monopolistic rights. So others are restricted or not, restrictions have been put on others or not, yes, other companies, other individual traders and merchants, restrictions were imposed, it is justified or not, will it be opposed later, yes. In Britain, the British people, some of the British people, they will come forward and they will start opposing the monopolistic rights given by the company to English East India Company. Later, this debate will discuss. वो खुद सामने आएंगे, उनके भी अपने reasons हैं, वो मैं आपको बताऊंगा. Got it? So this will happen. So this, yes, Akash, ask your question. एक्चुअली पहले से भी कंपनीज थी. ये जो ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी भी है ना, ये दिस इज अ मर्ज. Obviously, but this will not be a policy. You can say that this will not be made public. Government will never say that we are making this company to exploit India. I told you that they were trying to create an image that British are the liberators. तो ये बात नहीं कहेंगे, बट हम ये बात समझ रहे हैं कि why company was formed. मेरी बात समझ गए? Obviously, this company was basically a merger. ठीक है? Two companies were merged, then this company was formed, and this company was given the right to do trade and commerce in the East. Okay, this was joint venture company. The objective was to organize the system of trade and commerce. For example, the people were doing trade and commerce individually, that was private trade. The government said that you don't need to do that. You can invest your money in the company. जैसे आजकल हो रहा है, अपना पैसा से आप कंपनी का शेयर खरीद रहते हो और रोज शेयर मार्केट खोल के बैठे रहते हो, कहीं नहीं जाना, पेट वेट इतना निकल गया, करोड़ों रुपए हैं लोगों के पास. अब लोगों ने काम करना छोड़ दिया, जिनको शेयर मार्केट की अच्छी समझ है. तो द गवर्नमेंट वाज सेइंग द सेम कि आपको क्या करना है, यू विल इन्वेस्ट योर सरप्लस मनी, द कंपनी विल डू ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स, एंड when the company will get profit, you will get the share in this profit. Okay, that is the idea. Okay, and in this way the organized trade will be promoted, and for that purpose company was sent to India. Not only in India, but the Chinese trade also, trade with China, trade with India. So monopoly was given to East India Company. That was the joint venture company. क्यों मैं कह रहा हूं कि this was a joint venture company in its technical sense? Because all the shareholders of the company will be known as proprietors of the company. That is the separate body, that is UP court of proprietor. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल डेवलपमेंट में डिटेल में डिस्कस करूंगा. एंड इलेक्शंस विल बी डन एंड 24 पीपल विल बी सेलेक्टेड, एंड दोज पीपल, द ग्रुप ऑफ दोज 24 पीपल विल बी द कोर्ट ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स. ठीक है? फिर इट वॉज क्लियर दैट कंपनी की एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्टिविटीज कैसे मैनेज होंगी, बहुत सारी चीजें. देन देयर विल बी चेंजेस इन रेगुलेटिंग एक्ट, पिट्स इंडिया एक्ट, तो उसको बाद में डिस्कस करेंगे. मेरी बात समझ गए? यहाँ पे इतनी बात आपको समझ में आएगी. कंपनी वॉज गिवन द मोनोपोलिस्टिक राइट्स, एक्सक्लूसिव प्रिविलेज टू डू ट्रेड विद द ईस्ट, बट दिस विल बी गिवन फॉर अ लिमिटेड टाइम पीरियड. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि हमेशा के लिए कि भाई आप 1000 साल तक ट्रेड करो, ऐसा नहीं कहेगी गवर्नमेंट. गवर्नमेंट विल से दैट एक्सक्लूसिव प्रिविलेज टू डू ट्रेड विद द ईस्ट इज गिवन फॉर द पीरियड ऑफ 15 ईयर्स. फिर इसको बढ़ाते रहेंगे, राइट? जैसे रिजर्वेशन क्या होता है, जैसे रिजर्वेशन को भी जब दिया गया था तो एक फिक्स पीरियड के लिए दिया गया था, और समय समय पे उसको हम क्या करते हैं, बढ़ाते जाते हैं, बिकॉज दैट इज अ काइंड ऑफ अफर्मेटिव डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. So until we see the discrimination, okay, is present in the society, और हमें लगेगा कि भाई एक लेवल सोशल इक्वलिटी का नहीं अचीव होता, तब तक वो रिजर्वेशन कंटिन्यू होता रहेगा. राइट? मेरी बात समझ गया ना? तो वही चीज है कि दिस विल बी गिवन फॉर अ स्पेसिफाइड पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, 15 ईयर. यहाँ पे एक्सक्लूसिव प्रिविलेज कितना था? 15 ईयर्स. नाउ द कंपनी विल कम टू इंडिया, द कंपनी विल कम टू इंडिया. 1600 ईयर के बाद नेक्स्ट डेवलपमेंट इज व्हाट? आफ्टर 1600 व्हाट इज द next development? Now we are discussing English East India Company. When English East India Company will come to India, company will follow a policy, and that is what? Trade plus diplomacy. Company will follow a policy, and this policy is what? Trade plus diplomacy. And British were the good learners. British were the good learners. Okay, the good learners do what? They learn from the mistake of others. They learn from the mistake of others. यही तो होता है. This is the meaning of good learners. You learn from the mistake of others. ठीक है? लोग कहते हैं अपनी गलतियों से सीखो. क्यों भाई? इसके लिए जरूरी है पहले मैं गलती करूंगा तब सीखूंगा? दूसरों की गलतियों से सीख लो, ठीक है। तो ब्रिटिश वर द गुड लर्नर्स, ठीक है, दे वर लर्निंग फ्रॉम अदर मिस्टेक्स, लर्निंग फ्रॉम योर ओन मिस्टेक्स। ये बहुत रिस्की वेंचर है, ठीक है, लंबा टाइम लगेगा आपको प्रोग्रेस करने में। सो यू शुड लर्न फ्रॉम द अदर मिस्टेक्स। व्हाट शुड बी द एथिकल वैल्यू इन योर लाइफ? Those mistakes and injustices the other people had done with you, you should make a comment, you should make a commitment that I will not repeat the same for anyone else. मेरे साथ अगर किसी ने गलत किया है तो मैं उसके प्रति बदले की भावना नहीं रखूंगा, ऐसी गलती मैं किसी और के साथ नहीं करूंगा। एंड दिस इज द टीचिंग्स ऑफ गांधी, यही तो गांधी की टीचिंग है, ठीक है। नाउ लर्न फ्रॉम द मिस्टेक ऑफ अदर्स। नाउ व्हाट विल हैपन? अब ये पोर्टुगीज से क्या सीखेंगे? व्हाट दे विल लर्न फ्रॉम पोर्टुगीज? देखो हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, आप लोग कैमरा ऑन करिए और बताइए, ठीक है, तो मजा आएगा। बुक पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं होगी। लास्टली आई विल सजेस्ट यू क्वेश्चन बैंक टू रीड, ओके। तो द व्हाट दे विल लर्न फ्रॉम द मिस्टेक्स ऑफ अदर्स, क्लास में ही याद करना चीजों। बताओ पोर्टुगीज से क्या सीखेंगे ये? That is the very first point, that they will say that in the initial stage we will not fight wars with the local powers. No aggressive beginning. The beginning must be humble beginning. So that's why they will use what? Diplomacy. Diplomacy shows what? Humble beginning. Humble beginning. Humble beginning. They in initial stages, okay, they will not fight with local powers. They will not fight with local powers. Initial stage they will not fight with local powers. Local powers से लड़ना ही नहीं. That's a humble beginning. Clear? Not to fight with the local powers. And how this humble beginning? Humble beginning क्या है? अच्छा दूसरी चीज क्या है? When your colonial ambitions or political ambitions will be exposed, the local powers will be suspicious and doubtful. जैसे ही आप टेरिटरीज को कन्क्वर करोगे, जैसे पोर्टुगीज ने क्या किया, दे एस्टैब्लिश कंट्रोल ओवर गोवा। नाउ द लोकल पावर्स आर डाउटफुल, यार कल को मेरी भी टेरिटरी हड़प लेगा ये तो। So the British are very smart. In the initial stage, they will try their best that their colonial ambitions could not be exposed. आप उनको केवल और केवल क्या समझो? ट्रेडर्स समझो, ठीक है, तो इसके लिए कोशिश करेंगे। Now what is their diplomacy? Now I will give you some famous examples here. One famous example of this diplomacy is in the year 1608. What we see in the year 1608, humble beginnings. What we see in the year 1608, read this. What is the most important event here is that an ambassador was sent in the Mughal court, and the name of this ambassador was, कौन था बताओ? 1608 में कौन आया था? कैप्टन हॉकिंस, ठीक है, कैप्टन हॉकिंस, ठीक है, हमारे यहाँ प्रेशर कुकर का नाम है हॉकिंस। तो कैप्टन हॉकिंस was sent to Mughal emperor's court. He was sent to Mughal emperor's court. Captain Hawkins was sent to Mughal emperor court. And now I'm asking another question. That who was the Mughal ruler at this time? इस समय मुगल emperor कौन था? Right, very good. Jahangir. Jahangir was the Mughal emperor at this time. And what is the time period of Jahangir's rule? 1605 to 1627. This was the time period of Jahangir's rule. 1605 to 1627. And Jahangir was a very powerful ruler like Akbar, or there were some personality weaknesses in his personality. AMC वालों को तो कहानी पता है, ठीक है, कहानी क्या है एक बार और सुना देता हूँ। 1611 what happened, okay, from 1611 1627 actually who was ruling the Mughal territory? So that was नूर जहां, ठीक है। नूर जहां का नाम पहले था मेहरुन्निसा, ठीक है, शी वॉज वेरी ब्यूटीफुल, ओके। एंड वंस जहांगीर went to the forest for hunting and he saw नूर जहां। और ये इसलिए मैं बताता हूँ because जहांगीर writes this in his autobiography, okay, and he saw नूर जहां, मेहरुन्निसा, okay, was basically hunting a tiger, okay, and she killed a tiger in a single shot. And Jahangir writes that on that day it was not only the tiger who was killed, ठीक है। उसके बाद जहांगीर किसको लेके आया? नूरजहां को। नूरजहां becomes the wife, okay, and then after some time the entire administrative affairs were in the control of नूरजहां, ठीक है। और जहांगीर वॉज ऑल्सो इन द ओपियम ईटर्स पैराडाइज, ठीक है। इसको कोई ज्यादा मतलब नहीं रहता था। मुगल ब्रिटिश अथॉरिटीज को ये बात पता चली, ठीक है, तो उन्होंने किसको भेजा, कैप्टन विलियम हॉकिंस को भेजा। नाउ विलियम हॉकिंस विल कम विद अ लॉट ऑफ गिफ्ट, बहुत सारा गिफ्ट लेके आएगा। और पेंटिंग में मुगल सॉरी मिडिवल में मैंने क्या पढ़ा आप लोगों को, पेंटिंग में सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट कंट्रीब्यूशन किसका है, जहांगीर का। तो पेंटिंग वेंटिंग भी लेके आया जाएगा। एंड जहांगीर क्लेम्स दैट मैं बहुत बड़ा पेंटर हूँ, बिल्कुल वो मजनू भाई की तरह, ठीक है। तो हॉकिंस कहेगा यार बड़ा शानदार पेंटिंग बनाते हो, तो और इसको चढ़ा देगा, ठीक है। तो ऐसा होता है। तो नाउ जहांगीर विल कम, द विलियम हॉकिंस विल कम एंड ही विल स्टे इन द मुगल कोर्ट फॉर मंथ्स। बताओ, एम्बेसडर आ रहा है आपके साथ, महीने भर तक पड़ा हुआ है मुगल कोर्ट में, ठीक है। उसके बाद क्या करेगा, वो आपके डिसीजन को इन्फ्लुएंस करेगा। एंड फाइनली जहांगीर विल गिव परमिशन टू द ब्रिटिश दैट यू कैन सेट अप योर ट्रेड सेटलमेंट्स और फैक्ट्रीज इन द वेस्ट कोस्ट ऑफ इंडिया। तो काम निकलवा लिया इसने अपना, राइट। So what happens here? Captain William Hawkins come and he was successful in getting trade relaxations. Right this. यही तो है डिप्लोमेसी। He was successful in getting trade relaxations. ठीक है, trade relaxation from Jahangir, and Jahangir permitted that now English East India Company can set up its trade settlements on the western coast of India. उसने कहा जाओ बेटा, वेस्टर्न कोस्ट ऑफ इंडिया में आप अपने ट्रेड सेटलमेंट्स को सेटअप कर सकते हो। यू कैन सेट अप योर फैक्ट्रीज एट द वेस्ट कोस्ट ऑफ इंडिया, राइट। दैट इज द पॉइंट। नाउ ब्रिटिश विल सेट अप देयर फैक्ट्रीज। ये भी फैक्ट्स बताऊंगा। फॉर एग्जांपल फर्स्ट टेम्पररी फैक्ट्री वाज सेटअप एट सूरत, ओके। तो ऐसे वेस्ट कोस्ट ऑफ इंडिया पे आप अपनी फैक्ट्रीज सेटअप कर सकते हो। नाउ द इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्ट, नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्ट, right, in the year 1615 another British ambassador was sent to the Mughals court, and that was Sir Thomas Roe. Sir Thomas Roe, he was sent to the Mughal ruler Jahangir's court. फिर से जहांगीर रूल कर रहा है, इसको भी पता है कि जाके भाई के साथ पार्टी करनी है, 2-4 महीने तक रुकना है। तो Sir Thomas Roe comes, he will stay for months, and finally Jahangir will give permission. जहांगीर क्या कहेगा, you can set up factories, okay, in all parts of the Mughal empire. बताओ, पहले से ज्यादा अचीवमेंट है कि नहीं? Yes. So that second point, that Jahangir gave permission to set up factories or settlements in all parts of Mughal empire. In all parts of Mughal empire, ठीक है, in all parts of Mughal empire, and he got the permission. Permission मिल गया उसे, got it. अब इनको क्या लगा, ठीक है, आफ्टर सम टाइम दे रियलाइज दैट मुगल रूलर को कोई ज़्यादा मतलब नहीं है। सो वी हैव गॉट द राइट टू डेवलप ट्रेड सेटलमेंट्स। नाउ वी कैन डू व्हाट, वी कैन डेवलप फोर्टिफिकेशंस। तो लेके आए ही थे। नाउ दे थॉट दैट वी कैन डेवलप फोर्टिफिकेशंस, बट जहांगीर ने कहा देखो बेटा ये सब मत करो, डोंट डेवलप फोर्टिफिकेशंस। बट दिस इज द इनिशियल फेज ऑफ ब्रिटिश presence in India. They will obey the Mughal authority. जहांगीर कहेगा नो फोर्टिफिकेशंस, ब्रिटिश विल से सही है, वी विल नॉट डेवलप फोर्टिफिकेशन। वो मान जाएंगे इस बात को, दे विल नॉट फाइट। दैट इज व्हाट डिप्लोमेसी इन इनिशियल स्टेज, नॉट टू फाइट विद द रूलर्स इन इंडिया, because this will further promote a kind of doubt and suspicion in the minds of the. So you can write here that the British also wanted to develop fortifications around these trading settlements. The British also wanted to develop fortifications around these trading settlements. British also wanted to develop fortifications around these trade settlements. Okay, but when the Mughal emperor objected, they stopped doing this. When the Mughal emperor objected, they stopped doing this. They stopped doing this. They stopped doing it. This is what diplomacy, because that's the initial phase. Now they will think that we should focus on South India. अब English East India Company क्या सोचेगी कि now we should focus or concentrate on South India. Why South India? Because in North mighty rulers are present, Mughal rulers are present, and in South India what is happening? A political vacuum has been created as a result of disintegration of Vijayanagar empire. This will happen. So write this. EIC decided to now EIC decided focus its activities in South India. Now English East India Company decided to focus its activities in South India. Its activities in South India. Focus on its activities in South India because in South India a political vacuum was created as a result of decline of Vijayanagar Empire after 1565. As a result of decline of Vijayanagar Empire after 1565. As a result of decline of Vijayanagar Empire after 1565. तो अब इनका फोकस क्या होगा? साउथ में. But who has also focused its activities in the south? French. And French were more successful in south. साउथ में पहले से ही ज्यादा कौन सक्सेसफुल है? फ्रेंच. And that's why French and British were the main rivals. So write this point, that French were more successful in south. French were more successful in south. And in this way, British and French, they became the main rivals. When I will discuss Anglo-French conflict, then you will understand this fact. Okay. In this way, British and French, they became the main rivals. ठीक है. अब कुछ बातों को आप समझो कि ब्रिटिश के पास पहले से ही क्या है? They have Bombay. They have got Bombay from Portuguese in the form of dowry. Basically, Charles II have got it, and Charles II did what? Charles II gave Bombay to East India Company on rent. बताओ, कंट्री हमारी, टेरिटरी हमारा, दहेज किसी और ने दिया, किराया कोई और वसूल रहा है, राइट? So they have given Bombay on, Charles II has given Bombay on rent. रेंट का पैसा वो ले जा रहा था. दैट इज ड्रेन ऑफ वेल्थ. यही तो है ड्रेन ऑफ वेल्थ. ठीक है. दूसरी चीज क्या होगी? नाउ सेकेंड इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, राइट दिस. मद्रास. मद्रास. What is important point here is that the British will get Madras on lease. British will get Madras on lease, and this will become the main center of their administrative activity in the south. This will become the main center of their administrative activity in south. Main center of their administrative activity in south. ठीक है. The year was 1639. This will become the main center of their administrative activity in south. And there is, yes, please. Yes. Local rulers. For example, there was a ruler in Golconda. ठीक है. Golconda was state. आपको medieval में मैंने बताया भी था कि बहमनी स्टेट के डिसइंटीग्रेशन के बाद the states came with the Golconda. So from the ruler of Golconda, first they get a farman, okay, and the farman was Golden Farman, okay, and by this Golden Farman they got the rights, the ports, ठीक है, and they will say that whatever the custom duties we will collect from these ports, 50-50 we will share it. तो आधा पैसा रूलर के पास चला जाएगा, okay, and in this way the ruler was encouraged, and further they will grant this right from the local ruler, ठीक है, कि we will take Madras on lease and we will pay you. ठीक है. तो ये डेवलपमेंट है. तो यहाँ पे ये पॉइंट भी लिख लो आप. 1632 का इवेंट. दिस इज ऑल्सो प्रीलिम्स क्वेश्चन. ये अच्छा क्वेश्चन था. एंड दिस इज आस्क्ड इन प्रीलिम्स. दैट इज गोल्डन फरमान. गोल्डन फरमान. ठीक है. गोल्डन फरमान. गोल्डन फरमान. राइट दिस. फरमान का मतलब फिर क्या हो गया? रॉयल ऑर्डर. Obviously the rule issued by the ruler, but here the ruler is local ruler. So write this. The ruler of Golconda. The ruler of Golconda. Basically Golconda was independent Muslim state in South India after disintegration of Bahmani Empire. Bijapur, Golconda, Ahmednagar, Barar, Bidar, they were the states which were formed. So this is Golconda. So write this. Farman was issued by the ruler of Golconda, and in this way, and in this way, in this way, the British got the rights to use the ports of Golconda. They got the right, the ports of Golconda. They got the right to use the ports of Golconda. ठीक है? But they will pay a fee for that to the rulers. ठीक है? At that time it was 500 pagodas, right? So they will pay this and they will use these ports. Okay. Now they have an important center in Western India, that is Bombay. They have important administrative center in South India, that is Madras. Don't you think that they are consolidating their presence in India gradually? Okay. Now the next important fact is, right, 1698 पहले यहाँ पे एक और important year है, that is right, this context of Bengal, that is also very important. Context of Bengal, right? 1651, in the year 1651, first factory of English East India Company was set up at Hooghly में क्या किया? They set up their first factory in Hooghly, Bengal, 1651. They set up their first factory in Hooghly, Bengal. So this is their presence in Eastern India. Now the next important fact is 1698, and highlight this fact as important fact. 1698, this fact as important fact. And what happened in 1698, right? Okay, EIC got zamindari rights of 3 villages. Here EIC got zamindari rights of 3 villages. EIC got the zamindari rights of 3 villages, and these 3 villages were, three villages were Sutnauti, Kalikata and Govindpur. These 3 villages were Sutnauti, Kalikata and Govindpur. These are the 3 villages, Sutnauti, Kalikata and Govindpur. Okay. And right here, Fort William will be developed, and this fort will serve as the administrative center of British East India Company in the east. So Fort William, ठीक है? Fort William. Now Fort William आगे आएगा when we will discuss Battle of Plassey and all this. So that will serve as an important administrative center. Now these are 3 important centers, one in Eastern India, the second is in Western India, that is Bombay, and the third is Madras, that's in South India. Now what will happen? This was the time when Aurangzeb was ruling. The time period of Aurangzeb is, Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb was ruling from 1658 to 1707. This is the time period of Aurangzeb's rule. ये हमको पता है. This is the time period of Aurangzeb's rule. And we also know about Aurangzeb that Aurangzeb was the last powerful Mughal ruler in India. Aurangzeb was the last powerful Mughal ruler in India. Okay. Now what will happen is that, अब देखो, British are present from 1600 and 1658 onwards. How many years have passed? More than 50 years have passed. More than 50 years have passed. There is the presence of company here. More than 50 years have passed. Now company authorities have gathered some confidence. ठीक है? And when they will gather some confidence, 50 years बीत चुके हैं, they will start violating the orders of the Mughal authority, that is Mughal ruler. Mughal ruler के order को क्या करने लगेंगे? Violate करने लगेंगे. They will start violating the terms and conditions that are written in the फरमान. फरमान में जो terms and conditions लिखा हुआ है, उस terms and conditions को भी they will start violating. उसको भी violate करने लगेंगे. And now tell me, this will be liked by the Mughal emperor or will not be liked by the Mughal emperor? मुगल एम्परर को ये पसंद नहीं आएगा. You are violating the terms and conditions that are written in the फरमान. They will start doing fortifications around their trade settlements, and it was already prohibited. Why they were building fortifications? We are using a word factory. Was it really a factory? They are using the factory. ये सब colonial historians का propaganda है. It was not a factory. It was like a, you can say, storehouse, godown, जैसे अमेजन का सेंटर होता है जहाँ से वो सुबह सुबह सामान डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करते हैं हर जगह, ऐसा ही था कुछ. They will purchase the goods, raw materials, they will store it here. They will bring manufactured goods from Britain. They will store it here and then they will sell. So that was not technically a factory, but we are using the word factory. Okay? Now what is happening here? They will start violating the ruler orders of the Mughal authority. They will start doing fortifications which was prohibited. Now what will happen? Aurangzeb was a powerful ruler. What Aurangzeb will do? Aurangzeb will take action. Okay? And now what? When Aurangzeb will take action, what will happen? Their trading settlements will be controlled, captured by the Mughal authority, Mughal ruler Aurangzeb, and the British were thrown out in the seas. Why I am saying thrown out in the seas? क्योंकि शिप्स में इनके नेवल शिप्स होते थे कोस्टल एरियाज में, ठीक है, तो सीधे इनको भगा देगा. कहाँ पर पहुंचा देगा वो? They will be expelled, okay, from the territories of India. They were thrown out at the seas. Now at this point of time, the EIC authorities realized their mistake. They thought that we have miscalculated the power of the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, and this was not the right time to violate the imperial orders or the Farman. Now they will say that we will wait for the right time, and they will use pardon diplomacy. And what is this pardon diplomacy? Okay, the representatives will meet Aurangzeb, and they will say what? That we are pardoning for our mistake. हमसे गलती हो गई. We will not repeat this mistake in the future, and we will also pay you compensation for the loss which you have suffered. ठीक है? This diplomacy is known as pardon diplomacy. जब कमजोर हो तब आप क्या करो? हाथ जोड़ के माफी मांग लो और इंतजार करो right time का, right opportunity. That is pardon diplomacy. EIC followed it, and they will wait. इंतजार कितना लंबा होगा सोचो. 1707 what happened? मुगल एम्पायर औरंगजेब died. को पता थोड़ी ना था कि इसके बाद लेटर मुगल्स का दौर आ जाएगा. But what happened? After Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperors are weak, not capable to handle the task of administration, and the Mughal emperors after Aurangzeb are known as लेटर मुगल. ठीक है? और जब लेटर मुगल्स आएंगे, वीक मुगल एम्परर्स आएंगे, सो द ब्रिटिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी विल अगेन गेट द अपॉर्चुनिटी, ओके, assert their terms and conditions. They will wait for the right opportunity. This is called, okay, a businessman outlook. ठीक है? बिजनेसमैन कभी आपसे लड़ाई नहीं करेगा, लड़ाई झगड़ा नहीं करेगा, इंतजार करेगा राइट टाइम का, और आपको पूरी तरह से बर्बाद कर देगा, और आपको पता भी नहीं चलेगा आपको बर्बाद किया किसने है. वो ये नहीं कहेगा देखा तुमने, मैंने दिखा दिया ना, ऐसा नहीं कहेगा. ही विल नेवर से लाइक दिस. ठीक है? तो इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी की मेंटालिटी यही थी. थे तो बड़े स्मार्ट, ये अलग बात है हम उनकी बुराई कर रहे हैं. ठीक है? अपनी कंट्री के लिए तो वो ठीक ही थे, राइट? नाउ दिस इज द इशू हियर. सो यू कैन राइट हियर दैट, ओके, read this. When Aurangzeb was ruling, okay, EIC violated, when Aurangzeb was ruling, EIC violate terms and conditions of Farman. EIC violated the terms and conditions of Farman. Right, next point. They started creating trouble for the local merchants or the traders. They started creating troubles for the local merchants or the traders. They started creating troubles for the local merchants or the traders. Right, third point. They also started developing fortifications around their trading settlements. They also started developing fortifications around their trading settlements. They started developing fortifications around their trading settlements. Right. Aurangzeb reacted to this situation. Aurangzeb reacted to this situation. Aurangzeb reacted to this situation, and Aurangzeb reacted to this situation and took action against EIC and took action against EIC, and EIC merchants were thrown back to the seas. Thrown back to the seas एक phrase है जिससे आप समझ गए, they were defeated. EIC merchants were thrown back to the seas. Thrown back to the seas. Right, next point. EIC realized its mistake. EIC realized its mistake. EIC realized its mistake. And what is the mistake? Miscalculation of the power of Aurangzeb. Write this. Realized its mistake, and that is miscalculation of the power of Aurangzeb. That's the miscalculation of the power of Aurangzeb. EIC realized its mistake, and that's his miscalculation of the power of Aurangzeb. Right, next point. Right. EIC used its diplomatic outlook and that is pardon diplomacy. EIC used its diplomatic outlook, and what is that diplomatic outlook? That is pardon diplomacy. Pardon diplomacy. And what is pardoning diplomacy? So there are two parts of this pardoning diplomacy. First, write this, pardoning for their mistakes. First part is what? Pardoning for their mistakes. That is the first part, pardoning for their mistakes. And the second part, okay, promising to pay compensation for the entire loss. Pardoning for their mistakes. And the second point is promising to pay compensation for the entire loss. And right, third part is what? There is another part in this pardoning diplomacy, waiting for the right opportunity to come. That is the third part, waiting for the right opportunity to come. सही मौके का इंतजार करो, waiting for the right opportunity to come. And right, and then East India Company waited for a long period of time, waiting for the right opportunity to come. And when the right opportunity will come, we all know this. After 1707, what happened? This year is marked, this is called death of, I am using this word, last powerful Mughal emperor Aurangzeb. This is what? Death of last powerful Mughal emperor. After this, there is a series of Mughal emperors. There is a series of Mughal emperors till 1858. What we see? There are Mughal emperors here, but most of them are weak and incapable. Most of them are weak and incapable. They were not smart enough to handle the tasks of administration. They were not smart enough to handle the tasks of administration. They were not smart enough to handle the tasks of administration. ये उनकी weakness हो गई, right? That's why they are called what? Later Mughals. तो मौका कब मिलेगा? Later Mughals के time में. Now this timeline, company came to India 1600. Okay, basically 1608. The first temporary factory was set up at Surat in 1608. The first temporary factory was set up at Surat, and now 1707, what happened? Aurangzeb died. Now this is the phase of later Mughals. Now here there was a ruler. The name of that ruler was Farrukh Shah. And Farrukh Shah ruled during this time period, that is 1713 to 1719. यही टाइम था फर्रुख शेर का, 1713 to 1719. Later Mughals I will discuss in the third part. Third part था ना, decline of Mughal power. There I will discuss all the rulers in detail. So that is the Farrukh Shah, 1713 to 1719. And Farrukh Shah was a weak ruler. He was a puppet ruler. Farrukh Shah was a weak ruler. He was a puppet ruler. Is it possible that when there will be the weak ruler, when there will be a puppet ruler, you can easily get the concessions, trade relaxations? Yes, you can use your power, you can use your influence, you can use the courtiers, because this ruler is controlled by whom? Courtiers. Okay, and you can easily get the trade relaxations, and the same happened, right? And what happened here? Read this. Farman of 1717. Farman of 1717. For English East India Company, this Farman is known as Magna Carta. Farman of 1717. And this is known as Magna Carta for English East India Company. This is Farman. Farman of 1717. This is known as Magna Carta for English East India Company. Which ruler has issued this? Magna Carta का मतलब क्या? दो जिसका importance बहुत ज़्यादा हो, right? It's very much important. Magna Carta. Magna Carta means very much important. Farman means royal order. So who has issued this Farman? So the answer is very clear. Now we need to understand that why this Farman is called Magna Carta. What is the importance of this Farman? So write this. Why this Farman is much important? What is the reason behind this? Why the Farman is so much important? What is the reason behind this? Pehla point, first point is what? All the previous dues of East India Company were settled. Okay? All the previous dues of English East India Company were settled, were exempted. पहले के जितने पैसे ड्यूज थे, बकाया थे, उन सबको क्या कर दिया? सेटल कर दिया. नाउ यू डोंट हैव टू पे. आज भी होता है ऐसा? ऑब्वियस है, होता है. ठीक है, आपका भी लोन सेटल हो सकता है. ठीक है, अगर मैं बैंक मैनेजर होता. ठीक है, तो ऑल द प्रीवियस ड्यूज ऑफ ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी वाज सेटल्ड. दूसरा क्या है? राइट, सेकंड पॉइंट. ओके, EIC could also use its currency throughout India. 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 आप अपनी करेंसी को भी यूज कर सकते हो throughout India. Okay, right. Third point, duty free trade. हाँ, third point is no custom duties. No custom duties. You don't have to pay any custom duty because you will pay one time payment to Farouk share. So that is no custom duties. That is very important. No custom duties. And the fourth point is very important. And what is that fourth point? Fourth point is, which province was the most profitable province in India? India में Bengal province. ठीक है, Bengal alone was contributing more than 1/3 export. And now Farouk Share will say that you can do duty free trade in Bengal also. So write this. Okay, permission to do duty free trade in Bengal. Reason. Permission to do duty free trade in Bengal region. That is a very important point. Permission to do duty free trade in Bengal region. Now how it will happen? Permission to do duty free trade in Bengal region. Suppose this is India and this is Bengal, and Bengal was ruled by the Nawabs of Bengal. This topic I will discuss separately अलग से, but एक उसका एक मतलब डायमेंशन यहाँ पे मैं कवर कर रहा हूँ, that Bengal is ruled by the Nawabs of Bengal. Clear? And at this point of time, Bengal Nawabs were more powerful than the Mughal emperor himself. Mughal emperor से ज़्यादा powerful कौन था? बंगाल का नवाब. But still, Bengal Nawabs were associated with Mughal emperor. That was a part of Mughal province. And now Farooq Share is saying that English can do duty-free trade in Bengal region. Okay, they don't have to pay any duty because they have already paid it to the Farooq Share. Okay, now what will happen? Now English East India Company will issue what? Licenses. Clear? And these licenses are known by the name of dastaks. Now East India Company will issue licenses, dastak, or in simple you can also call it passes. Pass issue करेगी. Clear? Company will issue pass and who will validate this pass? इस पास को वैलिडेट कौन करेगा? जैसे मान लो आकाश कल को आईएएस बन गए, ठीक है, और स्पोर्ट्स डिपार्टमेंट में चले गए, तो मैं 2-4 टिकट लेके पहुंचूंगा, भाई अप्रूव कर दो, ठीक है, होता है ना ऐसा. तो द पास विल बी वैलिडेटेड बाय हुम? पास कौन वैलिडेट करेगा? वेरी सिंपल, दिस लाइसेंस और पास विल बी वैलिडेटेड बाय बंगाल नवाब्स. ठीक है, बंगाल नवाब्स विल वैलिडेट इट. इट सिंपली मीन्स दैट Bengal Nawabs are agree on this. Okay, you are permitted to do duty free trade, but Bengal Nawabs will put certain conditions here. The Nawabs of Bengal will say that the passes that is being issued will be used by EIC officials only. पहली चीज. दूसरी क्या है? Passes will be used by whom? EIC officials only. The second point, okay, read this first point, right? The passes will be exclusively for the EIC officials only. The passes will be issued exclusively for the EIC officials only. केवल और केवल EIC officials इस पास को यूज करेंगे. एंड द सेकेंड पॉइंट देखो, EIC officials cannot do private trade using these passes. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? They cannot do private trade using these passes. So that is the second point. That अगर आप कंपनी का काम कर रहे हो तो you can use this pass, you can use this license, but you cannot do private trade using these licenses. Write this. EIC officials cannot do the private trade using these licenses. EIC officials cannot do private trade using these licenses. Okay, or these passes cannot be issued for the others. Clear? So there were clear instructions and Bengal Nawabs, okay, were agree to this. उन्होंने कहा ठीक है भाई, मुगल एम्पायर ने अगर इशू किया तो इट्स ओके. Okay, we acknowledge this fact. But what will happen after some time? The EIC officials will start misusing what? Dastak. Misuse of dastaks will be promoted by EIC officials. So you can write this, that after some time the misuse of dastaks will be promoted by EIC of misuse of dastaks will be promoted by EIC official. ठीक है, misuse of दस्तक क्या है? अब आप गेस कर सकते हो. EIC officials will start using these passes for their private trade. और दूसरी चीज, they will give these passes to other merchants also. ठीक है, अदर मर्चेंट्स को भी देंगे, इंडियन मर्चेंट्स को भी दे देंगे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, विपिन इज एन इंडियन मर्चेंट एंड ही हैज टू पे 100 रुपीज कस्टम ड्यूटी. आई विल से दैट टेक माई पास, ओके, एंड यू डोंट हैव टू पे कस्टम ड्यूटी. कोई कस्टम ड्यूटी नहीं देना पड़ेगा. एंड गिव मी 50 रुपीज. ठीक है, कैश में मुझे 50 रुपीज दे दो. तो आप कितना बचा लोगे? 50 रुपीज. बट इससे लॉस किसको हो गया? बंगाल के नवाब को लॉस हो गया, ट्रेजरी को लॉस. ये बात आपको समझनी है कि अब उन्होंने क्या किया? मिसयूज ऑफ दस्तक शुरू किया. ये कब कर रहे हैं? वो लेटर मुगल्स के फेज में कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उन्हें भी पता लग गया कि अब मुगल एम्परर क्या है? वीक है. यहाँ पे कैसी प्रॉब्लम्स है? नाउ दे हैव रियलाइज्ड इट. तो राइट दिस पॉइंट, दैट मिसयूज ऑफ दस्तक्स, राइट, दस्तक्स वेर यूज्ड फॉर द प्राइवेट ट्रेड. दस्तक्स वेर यूज्ड फॉर द प्राइवेट ट्रेड. एंड सेकेंड पॉइंट, they were also given to dastaks were used for private trade and they were also given to other merchants, and that's misuse. Now EIC will do what? EIC will learn from Portuguese also. EIC will learn from French also. जब एंग्लो फ्रेंच वॉर पढ़ेंगे तो ये बात आपको बताऊंगा मैं. EIC will realize that in India the local rulers had army, okay, and this army is not well trained. Okay, this army does not get regular salary. इस आर्मी को रेगुलर सैलरी नहीं मिलती है, बिकॉज वेन एवर देयर विल बी अ ट्रांजिशन ऑफ पावर, वॉर होगा तो सैलरी मिलनी बंद हो जाएगी. एंड व्हेन द रूलर विल बी चेंज्ड, उस टाइम तक सैलरी मिलनी बंद हो जाएगी. So EIC realized everything, that Indian people are also having not they are not having a sense of nationalism. They are not, okay, they are not having this sense that we all are the, okay, members of the same country. वो अपने एक छोटे से स्टेट को, अपने रीजन को ही अपना देश समझते हैं. They are not having this sense of nationalism. Now they will realize that we can easily develop a big army in India by using Indian people. We can use Indian as the soldiers because they don't have the understanding of this nationalism, and second, they are not well paid by the local rulers. So if we will pay regular salary, they will join British Indian. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? ये इनकी सबसे बड़ी बात है. Okay, so that will be promoted here. This all they are learning, and we all see that during this period 1600 to 1757, this all during this period, company is a trading company only, and here company has humble beginnings, and the company is using a policy that is known as trade plus diplomacy. And what are the objectives of company? The company wanted to establish itself as a political power, but here it's not clearly expressing its intentions. Is it clear? The main focus of the company out of 3G, here the main focus of the company is on what? Gold. Promotion of their trade and commerce. God and glory, इस पे अभी इनका ज़्यादा focus नहीं है. They are mainly focused on the promotion of trade and commerce. They want to maximize their benefits and the gains, and that's why they are avoiding conflict with the local powers. Clear? They want to buy cheaper raw materials from India. They want to buy cheaper raw materials from India, and they want to sell their goods at the dearer prices in India. They want to capture the market of India. That is their main objective here in this phase. They want to capture the market of India, and at the same time, there are other European competitors also. At the same time, there are other European competitors also, and they want to keep their European rivals away from the market of India. उनको बाहर भी भगाना चाहते हैं. ये इनकी कोशिश है in this phase. So they want to keep the other European rivals, right? They want to keep the other European rivals away from India. They want to keep the other European rivals away from India. And are they gaining the support of the local powers? Yes. They have learned from the French that we can use one local power against the another. So they are trying to gain the support and the confidence of the local powers. Okay, and that's why they are very humble. That is the most important thing. They are dreaming to make an empire in India, but they are making plans here that how this can be done. बिना पैसा खर्चा किए कैसे किया जा सकता है? Got it? How to make a big army that is composed of Indian people, and the same army, how it can be utilized to conquer India. हिंदुस्तान के लोगों से बनी हुई एक आर्मी जो हिंदुस्तान को जीतने के काम में आए, ये कैसे किया जा सकता है? They're trying to generate economic resources, those economic resources which will be helpful to establish political control over India. पैसा ज्यादा से ज्यादा कैसे हम जनरेट कर सकते हैं, और उसी पैसे का इस्तेमाल हम क्या करें? इंडिया को जीतने के लिए करें. This is the diplomacy of East India Company. It means we supported, okay, Indians supported in establishing colonial empire in India. Our economic resources helped the British authorities or East India Company authorities to establish colonial empire in India. हमारा पैसा और हमारे लोग, ठीक है, और हमने ही मदद की इस colonial empire को खड़ा करने में. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? And Gandhi used to say that evil exists here due to the if you look at the any structure where you see the evil, you will see there are some good people, right? and due to these good people, that structure survives. So when the good people are out, the evil structure will collapse by itself. And Gandhi gives the example of the huge army that was maintained by Duryodhan, which was fighting against Arjun, right? And Arjun opted for whom? Krishna, right? As his charioteer instead of that big army. Okay, and this big army of Duryodhan was surviving. It was giving a tough competition to Arjun only because of the presence of some of the good elements, and these good elements are Bhishma, these good elements are Karna. These are most loyal people who are committed to their words. Karna is known for his commitment towards Duryodhan. वो जानता है कि मैं गलत कर रहा हूं, but he is bound by his promises and the words. Okay, till his last breath, he will support Duryodhan. Now, what happens? Okay, Krishna says to Arjuna. Arjuna was fearing in the battlefield that how I can kill my relatives, how can kill my friends, how I can kill my brothers. Arjuna will say that this is a battlefield. If you will not kill, someone else will come kill, and you are fighting for dharma, and you will have to eliminate the good elements in that evil structure. If those good people are out, this entire evil structure or this entire huge army of Duryodhan will collapse. तो दुर्योधन की आर्मी को खत्म करना है तो भीष्म को खत्म करना ही होगा, कर्ण को तो खत्म करना ही होगा, और डरने से कुछ नहीं होगा, क्योंकि अगर इनके प्रति आप इमोशनल हो जाओगे, सेंटिमेंटल हो जाओगे कि अच्छे लोग हैं, तो आप उस इविल स्ट्रक्चर को कभी नहीं डिस्ट्रॉय कर पाओगे। मेरी बात समझ गए? तो यही चीज तो है कॉलोनियल एम्पायर। कॉलोनियल एम्पायर क्यों एग्जिस्ट कर रहा था? क्योंकि उसमें भी किसने सपोर्ट किया था? इंडियंस ने। यही गांधी ने समझाया, असहयोग, नॉन रेजिस्टेंस। ओके, we will stop cooperating with the colonial empire, and if the Indian people who are supporting this structure, if they will stop this supporting this structure, ultimately this building of, you can say that this entire structure of colonialism will get collapsed. Okay, this all will happen. Is there any question? देखो in मेरी क्लास में क्या है, that again I will discuss साउथ इंडिया एपिसोड, एंग्लो फ्रेंच वॉर, दोबारा से फिर से आएगा। अगेन यू विल रीड अबाउट डुप्ले, यू विल रीड अबाउट सम इंपॉर्टेंट पर्सनालिटीज, गोडेहू एंड ऑल अदर्स। ठीक है, तो चीजें बार बार रिपीट होंगी। मेरी बात समझ गया ना? बिकॉज दिस इज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ डिस्कशन। ठीक है, एक थॉट और एक एनालिसिस को लेके चल रहा है, तो ऐसा नहीं कि पीपीटी पे मैंने कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन लगाया है तो शुरू में आपको ये वेल स्ट्रक्चर्ड नहीं लगेगा। मेरी क्लास पहली, दूसरी, तीसरी क्लास में लगेगा कि नहीं ये वेल स्ट्रक्चर्ड नहीं है, बट व्हेन यू विल फिनिश वन चैप्टर, बिकम एन एक्सपर्ट ऑफ दिस चैप्टर। ठीक है, थोड़े बहुत पीवाईक्यूज प्रैक्टिस कर लोगे, यू विल बिकम एन एक्सपर्ट ऑफ दिस चैप्टर, बट इट विल टेक टाइम। एक्सपर्ट बनने में थोड़ा टाइम लगता है। ठीक है, so it will take time. My classes, obviously I take a few more classes here to finish, but your burden is reduced. आपको सिर्फ और सिर्फ क्या पढ़ना है? PYQ, right? I am including NCERT themes and everything in my classes, so you have to read PYQs. And if you want to read any book, you can read Tamil Nadu board books, NCERT books, plus multiple times you should read PYQs along with my classes. That much will be sufficient. ठीक है ना? बहुत स्टैंडर्ड बुक्स की तरफ नहीं जाना है। स्टैंडर्ड बुक्स के जो आइडियाज होंगे, आई विल इंक्लूड इट इन माई क्लासेस इटसेल्फ। ठीक है, बहुत कम जगह है जहां पे ऐसे ओपिनियंस की जरूरत है, दैट आई विल डिस्कस। क्लियर? ठीक है, जो चीजें बहुत रेलिवेंट नहीं है एग्जाम के लिए, उनको मैं पहले ही हटा देता हूँ। ठीक है ना? बिकॉज हिस्ट्री बहुत ज़्यादा वाइड है वैसे सिलेबस, तो जब आप ये चीज़ सेलेक्ट करने लगोगे कि व्हाट इज़ रेलिवेंट फॉर आवर एग्जाम और उसको पढ़ोगे, तो आपका टाइम, आपका एफर्ट सेव होगा। ठीक है, गॉट इट? ओके, कोई क्वेश्चन? हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस? ठीक है, एंड मेक रनिंग नोट्स इन द क्लास इटसेल्फ, दैट विल बी वेरी मच हेल्पफुल। व्हेन आई एम मेकिंग सम स्केचेस on the board, so you should draw some sketches so that you could further use it in your exam also. Okay, so that will be helpful. Yes, Vansika, ask your question. Actually, when I will say that no, you don't need to read it. Okay, so in first or second class it's not proper to say. So let me finish one part A of modern Indian history till 1885. Okay, and you will realize that there is no need to read the spectrum. And the second part, Indian national movement 1885 to 1947, I will cover 100% in the class. First part, first part आप समझ रहे हो, पहली क्लास में मैंने बताया था, in first part you need to practice PYQs, but in second part all the PYQs will be covered. Okay, and when you talk about book reading na, so our book reading becomes easier when we start understanding the concepts, when we start understanding the stories, when we start understanding the facts, because facts also do tell us stories. Okay, so book reading is the second step. Once I will finish one chapter, two chapter, three chapter, then you will look at the question paper, prelims question, previous year prelims question, mains question. Okay, if you think that our lectures are sufficient, okay, you are able to solve the question, so obviously there is no need for further book reading. Okay, but if you find that I am not able to do it, then you can go for book reading. But my experience says that my classes are sufficient enough for what is being asked in the examination. Okay, modern history में the number of questions are now less comparison to the last 4 to 5 years में वो ratio थोड़ा कम हुआ है, and for that there is no need to go through the books. और इस क्लास में ऐसे बच्चे भी हैं, there is some student आदित्य, उसको मैंने बताया था, तो you may ask him, ठीक है, he is writing mains this year. आदित्य online है नहीं, he is not online right now, so you may ask him that he has followed my class lectures, ancient medieval culture and modern Indian history, and he has also written BPSC mains examination, and he is writing UPSC mains examination in the very first year. Okay, so when you will minimize your burden, you will be more focused to the other core areas of CS also. So this is all about making a good strategy. Okay, how to minimize your effort, how to select the relevant sources. Okay, and in this way you can clear this exam in, okay, 1 year or 2 year. Okay, so this is the key. Got it? Got your answer, Vanshika? Okay. Okay, any other question? Yes, please. 1596 Cornelius Steve for 1602 the Dutch company was set up. ठीक है, ठीक है, इन इंडिया. ठीक है, ये मैंने बोला था, फर्स्ट डच ट्रैवलर 1596 है, और इसीलिए डच पहले आ जाता है, इंग्लिश है. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? इंग्लिश की टेम्परेरी कंपनी होती है कहाँ? सूरत में, इन विच ईयर? 1608. ठीक है, तो वो हो गया 1602 डच, एंड देन 1608 इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी. तो क्रोनोलॉजिकल ऑर्डर में हम देखेंगे, सो दैट विल बी पी, डी, ई एंड एफ. ठीक है, और कुछ फैक्ट्स हैं अबाउट द सेटलमेंट्स कि कब कब कहाँ पे सेटलमेंट्स बने, तो मैं डिस्कस कर लूंगा. कुछ सेलेक्टेड फैक्ट्स हैं दैट आर बीइंग आस्क्ड इन एग्जामिनेशन, दे डोंट आस्क ऑल द फैक्ट्स. ठीक है ना, तो उसे भी डिस्कस कर लेंगे. एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? वेलकम.